Welcome back to the Within Podcast. This is your host, Nikki Wallace, with Heidi Butoff, and I are on today. So thanks, Heidi, for coming on. I know you join a lot of these, but when I was just thinking this morning, we have never really talked about your story and how you've gotten where you are and all the things that you've done and accomplished in your career. So I just figured it'd be fun to kind of reintroduce yourself and kind of talk about you and kind of how you got where you are.
You know, I wasn't prepared for that, but I'm sure I can come up with
putting you on the spot.
It
is your journey.
Yeah, you know, life. I even have a magnet that says life is a journey, not a destination, and I'm big on that. And I will say, even throughout my career, that was something that I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And that's probably because I pursued them. I was always up. I'm kind of one of those people, give me a new challenge every, 3 to 5 years. And if you look back on my different roles, it's very indicative of that. But I spent 30 years in, corporate HR, and I look back on just the different experiences that I've had and kind of what led to each one of the opportunities that I had. And it really was relationships. I didn't really apply for a lot of the roles that I had, and I think that's just even something that I would, that I make even a point with my kids as they're getting ready, they're graduating from college and their friends, regardless of the labor market. Oftentimes the roles that you end up landing, and sometimes the best roles and the roles that become your careers are due to the relationships that you had, and not one that you just randomly, applied for. So maybe just something to note if people are out there trying to find a new role, or is really just networking and making, forging those relationships.
Taking the time.
Yes. So, and I didn't really want to go, but UNI is where I started, and I thought I was going to be an accountant.
Really?
My mom's, you always say you kind of, what your environment is what you kind of think you're going to do. And I was great with numbers, loved math. My mom was an accountant. So I chose UNI. I didn't know she was an accountant. Yeah. Chose UNI thinking I was going to do accounting. And I went all the way through my junior year as an accounting major. And then my senior year, I just am like, I was in classes. I'm like, I just do not love this anymore. And I had an organizational behavior professor that I loved. Okay. And so my final year, and you and I didn't have a human resources master or major, if you will. So I went business administration or business management, and then focused on HR related courses. So I like to say I have an HR emphasis, an accounting minor.
Yeah. I love that though, because you understand, and I bet it helped you throughout your career. There's you understand kind of the backside of business and how it runs and why it runs. And yeah. And some people would say I might not be the most business astute. I mean, I get it enough, to understand it. But I probably am more your emotional intelligence person. And maybe that's why, accounting really wasn't, it wasn't the IQ, it was the EQ that really kind of got me into the field. And then I did realize, I did want more schooling. So again, I went off to Drake to get my master's, and I was doing the MBA, and I'm like, I really don't want to rehash all the classes I've already taken. Yeah. So I started going down more of an adult learning track at Drake. Interesting. And then also realized, again, as you're going through, I kind of do make decisions pretty quickly. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to just focus on training, learning and development or training. And so I ended up going to Iowa State, and I got my master's in industrial relations, which is just a more broad. That program, unfortunately, still doesn't exist anymore. Right. But it was more comprehensive and the type of coursework, because I didn't really get as much of that as I would have liked, considering I didn't start out with that degree when I was at UNI. So I graduated from Iowa State with my master's, and really then just had always focused on more generalist type of roles, working everywhere from a manufacturing environment. I was at
where I ended twice. So not everyone knows that. I was at Holmes Murphy for several years, and then I left Holmes Murphy and went to Principal Financial Group for several years, and unfortunately was part of some downsizing that happened in the 08, 09 timeframe. And I did, yeah, it was, and at that time I actually did go out on my own for a bit. And wouldn't you know, I went and invested in a learning and development company.
Yeah.
But, it was all a great experience. And then I went back to Holmes Murphy. I actually started with innovative captive strategies and did risk management. So not even really specifically HR, but it really aligned good with what the captive business needed from, risk management from a safety perspective, but also risk management from an employee employment perspective. And so the partnership that I had with my leader at that time was really pretty helpful. And then while being at ICS, Innovative Captive Strategies, I was asked if I had interest in getting back into HR, as the individual that was leading HR at the time for Holmes Murphy was getting ready to retire. And so I stepped into the HR leadership role and kind of rode that out for the majority of my career at Holmes Murphy. I did help with some startup businesses and also did some high-end recruiting towards the end of my career. So I did a lot, but again, and I guess I can't forget, I did do a little stint on the employee benefits sales team. We had a proprietary product that I'm like, I'm a buyer.
Yeah.
So, being in the HR role and buying the employee benefits insurance. And so I partnered with one of our sales that started up a proprietary product. But unfortunately, it wasn't something that was viable in Iowa. And so that's, I'm willing to take those on those new challenges or those risks just from a learning perspective and to be challenged. So.
Yeah, I love that.
But like you said,
you've also had like really good big company experience. And I do think that balance is good. Like you've seen like the startup, like the, the grind that some of that is. But then you've also seen, Principal is one of the biggest employers in Iowa, or, even Holmes Murphy is a huge employer now. So I like that you've seen both sides.
Yes. Well, and it was even funny when I went to Holmes Murphy, came back around, because the first time I was at Holmes Murphy, we had an HR consulting division. So I did HR consulting for other companies.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know, but our HR consulting division spun off to Business Solver. Holmes Murphy was one of the founders of Business Solver back in late 1990s, early 2000s. So I was one of the first employees of Business Solver. So when I actually left Holmes Murphy the first time, I was part of the Business Solver team. Yeah. And went to Principal. But that was really
a lot of stuff, Heidi.
I know. And I look back and, not really very little regrets throughout my career, because I learned along the way and all that's good stuff. But I do say what and it's funny because when I talk to people, that I've retired, and people are like, no, you've just made a pivot.
Yeah.
Or you're refocused. It's not retire, it's refocus.
Right.
Because I still do have a lot of energy and passion, and that's, very quickly on it. When you start going through, as we've talked on some of our podcasts, some of the journeys the individuals go through, our own, it leads to, some of the things that you want to learn and so forth. And so that's when I started pursuing more of a women's health track, if you will. And I got certified under a woman by the name Dr. Mindy Pelz. She is a chiropractor by training out of California, but most well known for Fast Like a Girl. She's written several books now, but it really is all about understanding the phases of women's life and how lifestyle can be such an impactful part of that, and fasting. I've learned so much about just the benefits, and it's not for everyone,
right?
But it's worked well for myself and my daughter in particular, because that's another reason why I went kind of down the track, is her and I were kind of going through separately our own little journeys and trying to, take control of our health because we weren't getting the answers that we needed to. And so that's what led me to learn more. And then I did go to a particular vendor that I had been going to get IVs, and just said, can I come in and shadow you? I've never been in a clinical setting. Can I come in and just learn more? And she's like, well, if you're open to it, we have a client care coordinator role. And I'm like, well, I didn't really want to go back to work, so quickly. But I did. I went ahead and
took away a lot from that, I feel like, though, like in the time that you were there.
And I still do. I'm fortunate that they, even though I'm PRN, I work as needed. They keep me involved, and I continued to learn because they're a pretty progressive clinical space. Everything from, they evolved from just doing IVs to functional medicine and the aesthetic side. And they also have some partners in there that do the lymphatic massage and deep tissue massage and some of the different modalities. It's just, it's become part of my journey. So I've loved being part of that. But while there, I also realized I didn't want to go back and become a nurse or, so the clinical. So I also decided to go ahead and do the environmental health kind of route and did get certified with environmental health and learning more about just what our environment, whether it be what we eat or what we put on our bodies or what are in our homes, how that impacts our health. And so that was a really eye-opening experience too, because you don't know what you don't know.
No. Yeah. When do you feel like you started, because I feel like now your focus is a lot on the well-being side and, women's health and kind of the detox and the fasting and all that. When do you feel like that started to switch for you? Because when I met you, it's been over a year at this point, you were kind of like, I'm kind of getting into this world. And I know you said you in Brooklyn, had been starting a journey kind of behind the scenes. But when do you feel like that started to happen? Was it when you were still working? Was it after you had left? Like, when did you start to notice some of that?
No, that's a great question. I would say if I look back on it, truly what started is when I went to my PCP probably in 2018.
Yeah.
And that's when I wasn't feeling right anymore. I got a lot. I mean, it was funny. We just came off of a conversation with Nola, more emotional, more unstable, starting to doubt myself more, and just, but yet I was raised as I always put on a very strong front.
Yeah.
So no one probably ever knew I was struggling.
Right.
Because I kept, that persona that I'm strong and I'm a leader and but it was frustrating when I did go and shared just, I don't know if I don't want to say I'm depressed, but I'm emotional. I'm having a little bit harder time breathing, things like that. And she just immediately wanted to prescribe medication.
Interesting.
It's still to this day, she prescribed an inhaler and I never filled it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She didn't prescribe any antidepressant type of medication because I said, no, that's not something that I believe is necessary. But yeah, so it was just, and then, the other thing that shifted for me, so that probably was about all the same time, is I asked both of my children when they were 18. So they're now 24 and almost 22. What could I have done better as a mom?
Yeah. And I know, I love this question that you've asked.
And they both told me individually, obviously, because they turned 18 at different times. I wish you would have helped me better understand how to eat better, or that we would have eaten better throughout their first 18 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, because, we're the typical busy family. They were all in sports, run in different directions. Very seldom did we sit down at the dinner table as a family of four. We were doing a lot of drive-throughs and stuff like that. And I didn't meal prep. I didn't have time to. And quite frankly, I don't love cooking. So it wasn't something that, I did. But I did learn from just them both responding to that I can do something different going forward.
Yeah.
And
I know, I still think that's just like, A, I love that you asked the question. I know I've said this before, but B, like, I love that was their answer. And I think that does show like kind of where some of the younger generations are It's just a different, like, when I turned 18, I don't think that's what I would have told my mom. Like,
Right.
So,
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. So now, whether they like it or not, I'm telling them all the time.
I know. Now you're like, don't eat that. Like, we got to go get our reverse osmosis water or hydrogen water.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. And all four of us now have done the holistic health path.
Yep.
I mean, so we all know what our comprehensive blood panel is, and go back on a regular basis to just see how our nutrition, so whether it be the whole foods that we're eating or the supplements that we're taking, but also, our movement, our like you said, the things that we've changed, our reverse osmosis, our air filters on our shower heads, and our, all of it. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to share, and and my friends know if there's something that I find, especially in my book club, they laugh because we always have a holiday party, and I'm always bringing what is, my favorite thing now, and they all benefit from it because it's.
That's what I was going to say. They probably love grabbing yours because yours is something that
it's usually a self-care item of some sort. So but they're like, oh, here Heidi goes again. She's going to share what she's learned. But I do feel that, and there are some that will take it, and they'll text me and say, can you tell me more about that? And I love that. And some, just aren't in that same space, and that's perfectly fine. But it is interesting how dialogue in female cohorts these days are very different than what they used to be.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And I do think once you go through some of the the journey you've been through, the journey I've been through, the journey we've all been through, I think when you get really sick and have to make changes kind of out of survival, it's you can't really think about it different. I don't know, you can't go back to what it was once you kind of get your eyes open to some of the things that are really impacting your health. So
yeah. And I would say even while I was working in corporate HR, I never really thought of myself as traditional HR. I really was more about trying to build up the people in the organization, finding the best people, and helping them thrive. And while I might not be impacting, each one individually, it was all about what could our organization be providing that helps them thrive. And good, bad, or indifferent, I don't even know that sometimes the well-being programs that we had was doing that.
Right.
And so that's why I also do love some of the conversations that we're having these days on the evolution of well-being. Mm-hmm. And that it's not a program that HR should be running or implementing, and, but that it truly is an operational system for an organization to look at. It does begin with the leaders all the way down to, every employee, because we're all working through some sort of
everybody.
Yeah. Health.
Everybody has a story.
Everyone. And I'm also a big firm believer that health is wealth. If you don't have your health, the rest of it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's really what's led me to partnering with you and the People Co. and just what we're doing with the Potential Within Summit and being part of these podcasts. And I love just that they're conversational and they're real, and so that's what I've really been enjoying. So thanks for having me along for the ride.
Yeah. Well, and I just love, that's why, when, plans kind of changed this morning, and I was like, I love when people can tell their stories. And it doesn't matter if you were, had a good childhood, bad childhood, health story, whatever. At the end of the day, everybody has a story, and I keep going back to when I was going through some of the stuff I was going through. It's I don't think we realize that we're not alone. We just don't talk about it, no matter what that is. And so it's my hope is not just giving education around some of this, but just creating the community that there's somebody, going through something similar, or that you can kind of resonate with, or, talk to, whatever. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and it was so interesting, I'll admit, because it was one of my later roles. Got some feedback from a peer, and she's like, "You're always so strong," and I'm like, I actually had to break down and say, I really am not.
You have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of the front I put on when I'm at work, and, I'm strong for my children, and maybe my husband's the only one that really knows just where, the strength kind of falters. But yeah, that's always been something that I've been known for, and that I love to make people laugh. I mean, I laugh out loud. I'm a loud laugher, and things like that. So and positivity is one of my Gallup strengths. And so I really do play to positivity, and I love being around positive people. But it was very interesting when I really thought about it, when I was kind of crumbling inside.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only one.
No. Nope. And that's just it. You don't know until you talk about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for those that are going to be coming to the Potential Within, you will learn a lot more about Heidi, because she is going to be sharing her journey in depth, literally. Like, we're going to see your labs, I think, aren't we? Or we're going to share at least some of the information and kind of where you dug in and how you dug in and why you dug into your own health. And I'm excited to be able to see, help people see how that journey can go. So, yeah.
And I'm happy to share. Like I said, if someone, we're hoping for a full room, and if there's, 10, 20, half of the room that feels as though it's something that resonates with them and maybe changes how they look at things, even one piece of it that they pick up, I'll be happy.
I know. It's 10 weeks from today. 10 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks. I can't remember. It's soon. June will be here before we know it, but well, good. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to leave anybody with?
Again, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But and probably a little bit, like we talked about with Nala, is don't let your identity be your career, because it could pivot, and that's okay.
I loved how she talked about like the seasons of life require different things, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, and I am pretty faithful, and when it comes down to it, I do feel as though I was put here for a purpose, with a purpose and on purpose. So I was just trying to make sure that that's what I'm living out. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you for sharing, and thanks for listening along to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week.